This is Censor Studio biting the wall of common sense. Since last night until early this morning, the situation in the Middle East has been quite turbulent. Fortunately, after the United States stepped in to mediate, it seems that the issue has been somewhat resolved. The dominant view is that Israel's airstrike on Syria was conducted less for national interests and more to address Prime Minister Netanyahu's political crisis. So today I will take a closer look at this topic. First, let's take a look at the situation Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing. Currently, Prime Minister Netanyahu is on the verge of losing power. Netanyahu's Likud party holds 32 out of the 120 seats in Israel's parliament, the Knesset. Netanyahu needs over 60 seats, so he formed a coalition government with other parties to secure this. However, the issue is that the other coalition parties were ultra-Orthodox Haredi parties. Recently, Israel has experienced significant political turmoil. The country requires mandatory military service for all Jewish citizens. Men have to serve in the military for 32 months and women for 24 months. The issue lies in the decades-long exemption of Haredi religious students from military service due to their Torah studies. As a result, there has been discontent within Israel due to unequal military service requirements, leading to dissatisfaction among the population. The Israeli military is struggling with troop supply due to the increasing number of Haredi. As a result, Prime Minister Netanyahu is working to enforce mandatory military service on all Haredi. But this causes a problem. Earlier, I mentioned that some Haredi parties were among the coalition parties. Because of this, they are strongly opposing it. The Haredi party Shas, with 11 seats, withdrew from the coalition due to the plan to impose military service on the Haredi. And there's also a Haredi party called United Torah Judaism, and they withdrew as well. Consequently, Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition government risked becoming a minority, holding only 50 out of 120 seats. If the opposition puts in just a little more effort here, he will lose power. As a result, Prime Minister Netanyahu is in a very urgent situation. On top of that, there are many trials that he has to face right away. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been on trial for over 4 years on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. Suspicions arose that he accepted $200,000, around 207 million won, in gifts from foreign businessmen seeking favorable tax legislation. He is also accused of granting regulatory benefits worth millions to a telecom tycoon in exchange for favorable media coverage. And he is also accused of receiving $65 million, or about 9.45 billion won from Qatar. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been on trial for over 4 years, dragging out the proceedings. Prime Minister Netanyahu has frequently initiated conflicts during political crises, resulting in the postponement of his trial. Of course, some people believe he does it for the national interest of Israel. The main analysis is that this Syria airstrike was done primarily for his own political motives. The trial was postponed due to Israel's recent airstrike on Syria. Let's first discover the reasons behind Israel's decision to carry out this airstrike. Israel had its reasons. As you know, Syria removed al-Assad, effectively ending the civil war. The new president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, promised inclusiveness and declared that he would protect all of Syria's diverse communities. The problem was that conflicts between Sunni extremist groups and the Druze people continued within Syria. In March, clashes in Latakia led to hundreds of deaths, and in April, at least 100 died in conflicts between government supporters and the Druze. Continuous fighting has made their control unstable. For now, the Druze people dislike the current Syrian government. First of all, the current Syrian president, al-Shara, has a background in Islamic extremism, so they don't trust him. The Syrian government is deliberately excluding the Druze people, and since there is only one Druze minister in the Syrian government, they don't trust them. But the Syrian government wants the Druze militia to disarm and be integrated into the Syrian army. As a result, their interests misalign, perpetuating the conflict until a major incident occurs. A clash broke out between the Druze and the Bedouin. The Syrian army used this as a pretext to enter Suwaida, a Druze stronghold, sparking conflict between the Druze and Syria. Intense fighting persisted, prompting Israel's intervention. Israel's reason for getting involved was straightforward. It's because the Druze are classified as a pro-Israel group within Syria. Israel has stated that it has a deep fraternal alliance with the Druze within Israel, and family and historical ties with the Druze in Syria, so it is doing its best to prevent harm from coming to the Syrian Druze. In the case of the Druze, about 130,000 of them live in northern Israel. Many Druze have served in the Israeli military since 1957, with a significant number currently in the military and police forces. Because of this, Israel couldn't just stand by and watch the Druze be attacked by the Syrian army. Israel unilaterally declared a ban on the entry of troops and weapons into southern Syria, but Syria rejected this. Israel then launched an unexpected airstrike on Damascus, a Syrian Sunni city. As a result, buildings of various intelligence agencies, including the Syrian Presidential Guard, the Ministry of Defense headquarters, and the Dara governor's residence were attacked. According to the Syrian Ministry of Health, at least 3 people died and 34 were injured in an attack by Israel, which Syria strongly condemned. A live broadcast captured the moment the Ministry of Defense headquarters was bombed, showing the startled announcer evacuating. Just as Israel and Syria were about to clash, the United States stepped in to intervene. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that an agreement was reached to end the situation. As a result, the Syrian army began a covert withdrawal from Suwaida on Wednesday night, and the Israeli forces that had entered Syrian territory also began preparing to withdraw. The Syrian government and some Druze factions reached an agreement suggesting the conflict may be nearing its end. However, it's unlikely that this conflict will end peacefully. A temporary ceasefire is in place due to international mediation and pressure, including from the United States. However, Middle East experts agree that distrust and conflict persist, and violence could erupt again at any time. The biggest problem is the political crisis within Israel. Given Prime Minister Netanyahu's current unstable political position, there is a high likelihood he will use military external shocks to resolve internal crises. He is currently on trial for corruption and abuse of power charges. Stepping down as prime minister would make it hard for him to avoid prison. In this desperate situation, war inevitably becomes a means of survival for Prime Minister Netanyahu. This is why there are concerns he may again launch airstrikes against Syria or other neighbors to divert from his political crisis. The justification for the recent airstrike on Syria, specifically protecting the Druze, is a highly complex issue. The Druze community is not a group with a single political viewpoint. Within the Suwaida region, there are divisions among Druze factions. Some leaders aim to maintain cooperation with the Syrian government, while others remain distrustful or opposed to government forces. Given the intense internal conflict, trust in the ceasefire agreement is low, and there is still a possibility that fighting may restart at any moment. Some Druze leaders have publicly rejected the Syrian government's negotiation proposals and vowed to continue armed resistance, resulting in ongoing localized clashes even after the ceasefire agreement. Intensified clashes between Druze militia and Syrian government forces will likely lead to Israeli military intervention, using the pretext of protecting the Druze. This situation is not just a local conflict, but could escalate into a full-scale war between Israel and Syria. Syria is in a transitional period following the collapse of the Assad regime, with the country being chaotically reorganized under a new government. Its political and military response systems are not yet fully established. There is also a possibility that Israel may actively take advantage of this situation. Moreover, if external forces like Iran, Lebanon, or Hezbollah get involved, the conflict could become more international, and the resulting damage and instability would be greatly amplified across the Middle East. The temporary halt of Israel's airstrikes does not signify true peace. Instead, it could be a political maneuver to prepare for an even greater conflict. The international community should view the current ceasefire not as relief, but as a warning of a greater impending crisis and remain vigilant. Israel won't recklessly rush to rescue the hostages, as they likely have a specific objective in mind. Following airstrikes on Syria, Israel swiftly redeployed roughly 2 divisions to the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights, a disputed area between Syria and Israel, grants control over Israel's northern Galilee region to whoever secures it. If the Golan Heights is breached, there's a direct route to the heart of Israel, leaving it completely exposed to enemy advances. On the other hand, if Israel holds the Golan Heights, it can quickly seize key strategic points in Syria. In addition, the Golan Heights is rich in water resources and even has waterfalls, so Israel has plenty of reasons to control the area. It seems that they want to solidify their claim over the Golan Heights, and even consider occupying some parts of southern Syria. And they seem to be resolving the buffer zone issue through the Druze people. Some analysts believe Israel conducted these airstrikes to expand its territory. Unless Prime Minister Netanyahu's political issues are resolved, war and conflict will likely continue. What do you think about Israel's current airstrikes on Syria? Please let us know in the comments. That's all for this video. Thank you.